As I record this, I'm feeling incredibly achy, and there's a good reason. For the past few weeks, I've been trying to lift weights at least 4 times a week. And if I'm honest, it's not been a particularly easy process. In actual fact, I probably need a couple of rest days now to recover. But here's the thing. As I approach my 50s, I know all the evidence points to the fact that lifting weights is really, really important to my future health. And if you're in your 50s or 60s or even beyond, I know that you should be investing a chunk of the time you spend exercising, lifting heavy things too. So in this video, I want to talk about why you should be lifting heavy weights, the secrets of building a regime which is successful for your longevity, and what you can do to start incorporating lifting heavy stuff to improve your future health today. Welcome to What Happens Next. I want to start with a bit of a shocking statistic. From as early as 30, if you do nothing to build muscle, you typically start to lose 1% of your muscle mass every year. That accelerates as we get older if we do nothing, with people in their 70s potentially losing 3 to 5% of their muscle mass every single year. That's why maintaining muscle mass, especially through the simple strategy of lifting heavy stuff, is really important. None of this is about looking like Arnie or having massive muscles, because building muscle mass is actually a key way to maintain mobility later in life. You see, according to a 2015 report by the American Society for Bone and Mineral Research, people who lose muscle were more than twice as likely to fracture something later in life from a fall. And that's not all. Maintaining muscle mass also helps protect one of the most important organs in the body, the brain. There's growing evidence that resistance training is part of the puzzle that supports cognitive function and even reduce the risk of you suffering from diseases of cognitive decline. A 2022 study published in the British Journal of Sports Medicine found that older adults who engaged in strength training at least twice a week had a 20% lower risk of death from all causes, including heart disease and neurodegenerative conditions. So when we talk about anti-aging, we're not just talking about looking younger, we're talking about staying stronger, sharper, and being more capable for longer. Something I'd suggest that we all want to think about, particularly in our 40s, 50s, 60s, 70s and beyond. There isn't a client I work with in my role as a chartered financial planner, or in fact a person I know that doesn't want to be more mobile, stronger and sharper for longer in their lives. More mobile for me means more time playing with my kids and grandkids. More strength often means more time in my life and for longer living independently. A more mental and physical sharpness means the ability to create more memories with the people I love and like. The challenge we've got is if we don't lift heavy stuff and incorporate that in our exercise routine, we suffer from something called sarcopenia, age-related muscle loss, which is hugely correlated with a loss of independence and increased potential injury when we fall and mortality later in life. You see, your muscles tend to have 2 types of fibres. Type 1 is slow twitch fibres. They're the fibres you use in your body for endurance activities like walking or standing up. They tend to be pretty robust as we age, and the evidence points to the fact that they stay relatively well maintained as we get older. The challenge we've got is the other type of fibre we have in our muscles is called type 2. And they're the ones used for explosive movement and lifting heavy weights. And they do erode as we age. However, if we can continue later in our life to incorporate lifting heavy weights in our routine and moving explosively, we continue to use those parts of our body, and actually they maintain better by simply practicing and using them more. Now, I know what you might be thinking, and actually today I'm feeling the same thing. Lift heavy weights, Chris, not with my back and knees. And it's a fair point, but here's what I'd recommend you do. First, start slow, steady and light. Start with a weight you can lift easily, but can consistently do it and build over time. Secondly, focus on form, not ego. This isn't about lifting as heavy as you can, but instead how well you can live. If you're not sure to lift properly, there's a bunch of YouTube tutorials and a bunch of classes, certainly in my area and I'm sure in your area, that mean that you can lift properly. And lastly, if you're not sure what you should be doing and you've got other medical reasons for not lifting heavy weights, get some professional medical advice. Let me be clear. The old style of thinking about this sort of stuff was light weights with high reps and not challenging yourself to lift more has actually failed many of us. It's well intentioned, but it's often based on outdated assumptions about ageing and agility. The new science shows us something interestingly different. Heavy resistance training, progressively and safely applied, can restore strength levels you had decades ago. It helps you preserve those pesky twitch 2 muscle fibres I was talking about earlier. It improves balance, bone density, can have a positive impact on metabolic health and help with your functional capacity. It also has the added advantage of potentially adding a bunch of additional years to your independence far later in life. You're never too old to start lifting slightly heavier weights. You're not too fragile. You're not past the point where strength matters. Every single study shows that people in their 60s, 70s and even beyond respond positively to lifting heavy stuff. The adaptation might take slightly longer if you're older, but it can happen. Strength is freedom, I think, and it's available to you. All you need to do now is incorporate lifting heavy weights as part of your routine. And it's interesting, when I look at some of our most popular content on what happens next, it's normally health related. I think we start to think about health a lot more when we certainly get into our late 40s and beyond. And I want to share with you today 2 other videos that might be really useful. In this video, one of our most popular interviews on what happens next, Georgia Farah talks about what we can do to improve nutrition in our life. And in this video, I talk about mindset and why it's important to have a specific type of mindset as we get into this chapter of our lives. Hopefully that's useful. Have a lovely day and we'll see you on the channel soon.